Sucks. Can't be in tune. That's better. Yeah, I don't know. This guitar is a piece of junk. Well, I'm staying in tune. Tune here, not tune here. All right, someone's here. I was just playing guitar until people come in. Yeah, I was doing a talk before, and people mentioned. Oh, I missed it. Okay, well, I'm here. Anyway, while I'm here, any questions? Comments? All right. So I guess I'll talk about this since this is what I did. On my website is actually not, someone asked me today about my website. My website is not for any of this stuff. My website's for my business, which is, I own a music school. That's where my hat is actually. My hat is the name of the music school. But on my website, I did put a whole rundown of this government and this whole matrix that the government is, and how to get out of it. And there's step-by-step directions on how to do the affidavit, how to file that, send that out to Secretary of State. And even basically you just copy and paste the affidavit that's on there and you just add whatever you want and a notary. And you send that in. That's all you really need to do to change your status, because per their own laws regarding immigration and nationality, all you have to do to become a national is send a letter to the Secretary of State in D.C. letting them know you're a national. That's it. Tell them to update your records. Say, hey, update your records. So that's on my website. I shared it. I don't know if anyone really saw it. I think maybe like one or two people saw it. Because there's kind of like, I think I shared it when it was really, I guess, really busy. There was like a whole lot of conversations going on. It's fine. I love it. I love the conversations. It's great. So just so that people know it's there, you can go on my website is guitareducate.com. And then if you go down, it'll say reclaim your freedom. And so it's really easy to find. You can share that with people. If someone goes, I want to become a national, what's the easiest thing to do? Say, go to guitareducate.com. And it's in the menu. You go all the way down. It says reclaim your freedom. And it's right in that website. So it tells you exactly what to do. It even tells you how to go to the passport office later on, who to put on notice, all that stuff. In fact, you know what? I'm going to share it right now. Let's see, guitareducate.com. I'm going to share it. You can hear me all right? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share this. There you go. Okay. So this is my website, right? And then what you do, if you want to get into this, you just go to here. And you can come down. If you read the public notice actually has all this information in here. When I am national 8 U.S. Code 1101A 21, I'm separate entity. This is the public notice. You can actually read the public notice, and it actually has a lot of information on there regarding all this stuff and what this is. So that's the first thing. You could just read the public notice, but then after that, it says reclaim your freedom. You click on that, and this comes up. You can watch the videos on my channel. But we got this beautiful thing. Someone gave that to me today. That was awesome. I loved it. I was like, yeah, I got to put that up. So I put that up on here. How to reclaim your freedom. So first we do a little breakdown. The United States government is a federal corporation. Okay. People tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist for saying this. I don't know why. It's written in the codes. I mean, what's there to theorize on? It says it right there, plain sight. So it goes through all this, and I just talk about it. This corporation has been dictating your life since you were born. All that good stuff, right? And then, I ripped the shreds the whole 14th Amendment in here too, because just from the first sentence, which is actually this long. Okay. I mean, I get like 2 words into it, and I'm like, okay, let's rip that to shreds. Persons. Okay. The United States, even the word and gets ripped apart. See, right in here. And Doesn't say are subject to, it just says and subject to. That's the 14th Amendment. That's actually the hidden deception in this whole thing, stuff like that. But I also put in these definitions: corporation, artificial person, legal entity. So this is it. This is the process. It shows you how to do it. It's right on my website, even though my website's for guitar stuff. Welcome to Guitar Education. Got my book for sale. This is a kid's book. All right. Color strings. They love it. And I got all these guitar lesson videos in here, which of course they're not going to load for some reason. But yeah, they're in there. Oh yeah, there we go. Look at that. That video must be like 12 years old or something. All right, bar chords, all this stuff, finger exercises. But you guys aren't interested in that. You're all about the freedom. So that's what I have down here. The public notice: reclaim your freedom. And then this goes through the whole thing. By the way, I really, this thing, I saw that today. I was like, that is awesome. So I put that on there. I did mention the civil peace flag. This is the flag of the national, right? Oh, glory is a wartime military flag. I don't know how many people know that, but actually the other American flag is actually it's a war flag. Because it's the flag that the Army flies, right? And the reason why they made the civil peace flag was because ships were getting attacked waving the other flag. So they came up with a flag. They had to come up with a flag that still represented the country, but was noticeably not the war flag. So they inverted the stripes, right? And the stars and the color of the stars and stuff. That's what the civil peace flag is. So it was a civilian flag, not a military flag. Okay. And then people actually hung these flags out of their storefronts back in the day. You know, that people will tell you that this isn't real, but it's documented history. People had these flags and flew them around. They were real.
I got a document you'll like since you're talking about flags.
Uh-oh. What you got there?
The 1925 Attorney General opinion on the national flag. It's the first credible evidence that really explains the gold fringe flag.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. All right, you got that? Please share that. I'm going to put that up on Rumble. You share that? I'm going to put it up on Rumble.
Yeah, I did a video a while back on that because people call it a maritime flag, but people don't read. It is not a maritime flag. So let's see here.
Well, I noticed those gold fringe flags, they're in the banks, they're in the courts, they're in the public schools.
Because it's federal territory.
And the libraries. Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's all federal stuff. Like the banks, I always thought it was interesting that they were in the banks. Right? Well, court is a bank anyway, right? So
the bank is federal territory because who regulates commerce?
Right.
I shared it in your group so you can actually pull it up.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll just go through this real quick. So this is the steps to becoming national. Exit the matrix. First step, right? You do your affidavit. This is all on my website now, so people can just go here if they have questions about becoming a national, what to do, and stuff like that. You can just go send them to this. This is my website, guitareducate.com, and they just go down to reclaim your freedom. And they can just go down, they can read about it. Up in here, I briefly talk about it. And then they can just go and follow the steps, right? It even has who you send this to. You've got to put people on notice. District attorney, county sheriff, head of the health department. And I do the health department, the head of the health department, because look what they did with COVID, right? So let them know, hey, look, I got a lot of parents that go, oh, can I do this for my kids? Because I'm worried about the mandatory vaccines. Like, I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but, just in case, yeah, do it. And that way they're out of their jurisdiction. Attorney General, your state, chief of police of your town, and anyone else you want to think is going to help you sleep better at night. But that's
Now,
after.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on some of what you're saying.
Well, that's fine.
Here's why I say it. I do agree. Giving notice. You're right. How can you become something you already are?
Well, no, you're not. Well, okay. So what you're doing, I know people say status correction, changing your status. Technically, you already are a national. Everyone's already a national. If you're a citizen, you are a national. According to the Immigration Nationality Act, all U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals. It says so right in there.
Yes. I did a FOIA request with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Office. I was the first one that I've ever known that done it, and asked them for any documentation showing that I am a U.S. citizen, and they come back and said there is no records. That means what? You're already a national. See, we're guilty a lot of times of making presumptions just like the court does with no evidence.
Right. So the whole point of it is that you've contracted into things as a citizen, right? Probably not with the federal government, unless, like maybe with the IRS you might have. But they're not even the government anyway, so it doesn't matter. But with your local government, getting a driver's license, buying a house, stuff like that. Are you a citizen? Yes. Every time you go to the bank, open up an account. Yes, citizen. Your parents contracted you in. You signed things. So all those things are attached. But of course, the federal government doesn't have all that information. It's not pertinent to them. That's why doing the passport. By the driver's license, by the way, we found out that you can't get a driver's license if you're not a citizen or resident. They won't issue a driver's license to you. So passport is really the only solution because the state won't tolerate someone not in their jurisdiction with a driver's license. But
yeah, now let me ask you some questions. I used to think just like you on a lot of this stuff. And what is the Social Security account? What is it?
It's a trust fund.
Okay, it's a trust. I had a conversation with two high-priced attorneys over the Trading with the Enemy Act, Social Security Act, the birth certificates, the social. And when I got to the social, I held it up. I said, "Is that my name?" They said, "I presume it is." And I flipped it over on the back and read that all-important sentence. Now, at the time I did this, I didn't know what I know today. Okay. I said, and I read that all-important sentence, "This card is property of the Social Security Administration and must be returned if we ask for it." Doesn't say anything about getting lost, none of that. It does in another sentence, but it's in that specific sentence, it does not. That trust is a legal person, okay? And under the 14th Amendment, all corporations, all businesses, and all trusts are legal person having equal protection under the law. When you put the name and you put the social on a document, you are not saying you are the U.S. citizen. You're an agent for the trust.
Right. That's why you have to sign it that way.
That's right. Well, you can. If you go into the UCC and you look at signatures and authorization, the agent can actually just sign the principal's name, the principal being the trust. Okay. So it's not you, the man or woman, that is the citizen. You're only the agent of the trust. The problem is we're not acting like agents. We keep saying that's us.
Right. So like the way I normally sign my name, like here, I'll show you. When I do this, like when I write these things, like I wrote this fee schedule here. I signed my name. I wrote my name, and then at the end of my name, I wrote agent, and then I said for ens legis, all caps name, right? Which is the trust, because I know this is I was dealing with the DMV. That's the trust account that they're talking about. So I wrote down my name, agent for the ens legis, all caps name.
Yeah, that's definitely that definitely works. And that's kind of how that's what I explain to people is you got to start acting in your official capacity, which is agency. It's just like I made the discovery because I've been studying this real heavy. I finally figured out what the mortgage companies and credit card companies and all this stuff, what they're doing. See, the agent, you are the general agent. You're not the universal agent. You're not the special agent. You're the general agent. Now, the general agent has the authority to appoint a subagent. So that's how the mortgage companies are creating all these accounts in the name of the trust that we never claim because we're not doing our duty.
All right. Well, that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, we're appointing them as a subagent. Well, what's the power of the subagent? Well, that depends on the contract you signed.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this out to people about this getting a ticket and what they can write on the ticket if they get like a parking ticket or something, because it's a contract. This is I just kind of briefly wrote it down, kind of as like a little demo for someone. Said, I have received and returned in a timely manner your offer of contract has been rejected. Apparently, and that works.
It apparently does, because you haven't talked to Jesse, have you?
No,
Jesse Wayne?
No.
He's in Fearless Floyd's group. He did that on a ticket, and he told us the judge pulled him in chambers. Don't ask me what they talked about. You'd have to ask Jesse because he told it and I don't remember.
Okay.
But I did something different with a ticket. I didn't even have to go to court. They sealed the record. 12 days before court. All I did was make a phone call. I didn't file a stitch of paper. I didn't do anything with accepting the offer, meaning I don't accept your contract, none of that stuff. And Felicia's heard the phone call. Floyd's heard the phone call because I recorded it. And the short version is this. I called the clerk up and I said, I need to speak to the court clerk. And she said, well, there's 3 of us here. And I said, I need to speak to the one that manages the courthouse to make sure everything runs smoothly. She said, well, that'll be me. I said, well, I'm in possession of a debt instrument. Now, the key is this. Go look up 18 U.S.C. 8. All the obligations of the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you agree to their terms of the contract, they call it a ticket, then it's a ticket. But what is it by law? It's a debt instrument. So I said, well, ma'am, I need to verify your EIN number because I'm in possession of a debt instrument and there's certain tax reporting requirements. She said, well, yeah, you got to do that kind of stuff. And I said, I read the EIN. And she said, well, I can't verify that's what it is. You might need to talk to Barbara down at the town hall. I said, well, I'll get her number here in a moment. I said, my next question is I need to know the penal sum for this instrument. She said, well, I don't know what that is or how to get it, which if you know anything about the court system, you know she might be ignorant. I doubt it.
Could be.
She should know that. Okay. And she said, well, I don't know what that is or how to get it. So I give her the instrument number. She says, are you giving me a ticket number? I said, ma'am, if that's what you believe it is, that's on you. I said, the way I see it, it's an instrument of value or a debt instrument, and under Title 18 USC 8, it is an obligation of the United States. And she says, and then she asked, was I the name? And I said, ma'am, that name is owned by the United States, and they're the secured party in this matter. And it is, I slipped right here and said beneficiary, because what I said after that was the duty of the agent. But I slipped and I said, I'm just the beneficiary, and it is my duty to notify the principal of anything that affects its interest. Now, that's the duty of the agent, okay, not the beneficiary.
Right.
So I meant to
Beneficiary
say
takes no action. None.
no action. And I actually meant to say agent. And then she says, can you hold a minute? I said, yes, ma'am. She comes back 2 minutes later and says, well, that matter's been sealed and dismissed. And I said, well, can you send that signed order you have to the address you have on file, which is what? The address for the agent, right? She said, oh, I can't do that. You're going to have to verify who you are. She got my court date was March 28th. She got my demand letter on the 24th, printed the order out that day, and was either back at the post office that day or first thing Friday morning, and had that thing express mailed to my house from way upstate New York all the way down south, and it was at my house Monday morning, the day of court. Sealed
Wow.
and dismissed.
Well, that's awesome. All right. So people take note of that. That's another, and sounds like a very effective way to address this. And they are debt instruments. That's without a doubt, because it shows like, oh, someone owes money. Money is owed from this thing. So that's what makes it a debt instrument. And then that means it has value.
Mm-hmm.
So that means it can be bought and sold.
That's exactly what they're doing, because the court registry investment system, you're familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do? They monetize the court case onto the municipal bond market through the court registry investment system. Those bonds end up going to the Treasury, and the state receives the credit. They get the cash through Title IV funding and other sources, which means what? That's why I tell people, you're not the grantor of the trust. You're not the trustees. The state's probably the beneficiary, because they will never give it to you in writing that you are. That means the only office left is you're the implied agent.
Yeah. So if people have to learn the laws of agency. It's very vital to everything that we're doing in this movement. You know, I did do a brief video on it. Like I did a video just breaking it down, and I had a friend of mine who's like deeply involved in this. He like called me up. He goes, I had no idea about this. Nothing. I did not know about this. He's like, that's actually pretty huge. I said, oh, dude, it's amazing. Once you really wrap your head around the laws of agency, the things you can do with it, and how this thing works, because you can tie in people all across the boards together with the laws of agency. You can use this to like things that what you just did about dismissing the tickets, right? So it's a very powerful piece of common law doctrine that people need to know.
Well, it's not just common law. It's also in admiralty, and it's also in equity. Okay. A lot of people misunderstand admiralty jurisdiction. You know how you've heard the teaching out there that they brought the sea onto the land, and we're under maritime law. Well, we're not.
I've heard that. I've never seen evidence of it.
Well, I'm getting ready to give you evidence. I did a video on this because that's what led me to do the whole thing with the gold French flag. Because the guy that's in that really nice black suit talking like he's a professional don't know what the hell he's talking about. But in my Westlaw account, I was doing research on if you go to the Constitution and you look up admiralty jurisdiction and maritime law, okay, I found a document that explained it this way: that admiralty jurisdiction and maritime law is a subset of the law of nations under the law of commerce. I said, wait a minute. Now it makes sense. Who has the right to regulate commerce? Congress, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. All right. And it's a subset of the law of nations. That's why it's international law. But if you study the Constitution long enough, you'll find another phrase. And in law, words matter. You find admiralty law also. So under admiralty jurisdiction, you have contracts in commerce, and you have two sides. You have contracts over the sea, which is maritime law, and contracts between nations over the land, which is admiralty law. This goes right back to what you were saying on the U.S. citizen when you signed the name. See, the First Amendment is first for a reason. If you believe you are that status, the government will tell you no different.
Right. You're exercising your free speech, saying, hey, I am that thing.
Free speech, and you're exercising what? Article 1, Section 10, the contract clause. You're contracting.
Right. Yeah.
Can they prove in court that that name is you? No. They never can. You can't prove it's you because all you got is hearsay. Well, my mom gave it to me. That's the definition of hearsay right there.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. That's exactly what it is. It's hearsay.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said law of agency studies in my group, which you're in there. If you want to, go grab it. There's a book called Gilbert's Law Summaries on agency, partnerships, and LLCs.
I'm going to check it out. I will share it in this group as well. I'm going to pull it up in here.
Yes, go ahead. If you want to, grab the
law summaries.
Go grab the portfolio. It's 300 megabytes. The portfolio has all the Gilbert's Law Summaries. It has the one I sent you on commercial paper and payments law.
Okay.
Yeah, it has that in there. It also has Gilbert's Law Summary on legal writing. It has civil procedure, criminal procedure, and Gilbert's Law Summaries are written by attorneys for law students. What better resource can you get than you learning this stuff than you can get than that?
Oh, that's pretty good right there. That's pretty solid stuff. Okay, what is this? That's the pocket-sized law dictionary. Law summary. You said it's 3 gigabytes?
No, 300 megabytes.
300 megabytes.
298. Okay. If you do a search for Gilbert's, you're going to see one named in the file section.
Oh, portfolio. I got it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one. Wow.
That portfolio is Adobe's Adobe Acrobat portfolio, and it's no different than a zip file.
Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah, the thing is oh, I see. All right. It's like I can't preview it until I open it.
Yes. It just shows the Adobe symbol. When you open it, then you've got a searchable bar that'll search the text of all the documents. You've also can pull one of the documents out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to download Adobe now.
You don't have to. If you want to download each individual one, they're right there grouped together. If you scroll through the files, the first Gilberts, it's about 12 or 15 of them right there after that.
No, it's all right. I think I got it. So
That's when I teach people, I'm like you. I teach them exactly where I get it from so they can go read it for themselves, because we can't be with them in court. They need to know this stuff.
right, exactly. Yeah, I always link everything. I want people to see this, and also the other thing is all that Patriot stuff has confused the movement tremendously, and it's like the fly in the ointment, you know.
That's the reason why I told you a minute ago I respectfully disagree with you, because status alone has nothing to do with citizenship. It has everything to do with competency. Are you incompetent to handle your commercial affairs, or are you competent? That's what status has to do with. Black's Law Dictionary, 11th edition. Okay. When you trace that word, it's all about competency. And citizenship, U.S. citizen and status, they all four have distinct and different definitions. Also, for those that want dictionaries, Black's Law 1 through 9, I think, is in my file section too. I just realized that yesterday. Somebody must have shared them because I saw them in there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I have 11 as well. But I mostly use 4, 5, and I've been using 6 lately because there's some additional stuff in 6. I have a hard copy of 7 right here. And you could see, man, this thing's been like it's been taken over by the time we get to 7.
I look at the dictionaries the same way I do the Bible. If you're going to study the Bible, you got to go back to the original language to really understand it, right?
Yep.
Well, when you're looking at law, shouldn't you go back to the time period and the dictionary they used of the day?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm of the opinion you should get your hands on every dictionary you can get your hands on.
Oh yeah. Well, I saw this. I went to actually go get a filing cabinet, and it turned out it was a law firm that was getting liquidated.
Nice.
And I just went there to get a filing cabinet. I didn't know until I went in there, and the woman's like, I saw all the books. I said, "Whoa, you got a lot of books here," and she's like, "Yeah, take whatever you want." So I mean, I loaded it up with whatever I could fit in there. You know, most of them are at home. But most of this stuff was like case law for New Jersey because it was a New Jersey law firm. So I was like, all right, maybe there's some interesting stuff in there, but, you know, not too much. I got that. They have like some kind of thing on debt. I got this other book. It's like
you will find some great resources when you look like that, when you go through their books. But yeah, I agree with you. New Jersey specific, you don't really need it. You know what my prized possession is?
What's that?
I have the United States Statutes at Large from 1789 to 2011 in book format.
Really?
And it is the hardest set of books to find.
Yeah, I don't even. Is there even a PDF of that?
Yes, absolutely.
We'll have to find that.
I can tell you how to find this stuff. Do a search, United States Statutes at Large. There's 2 websites.
I think I have that. Now I'm thinking about it. I think I have that as a PDF somewhere. I probably do.
If you do a search United States statutes at large, you're going to find, I think it's gov.info, gov.info or the GPO, one of the two. And it'll take you back to 1951. And then there's another one that's loc.gov. That one goes all the way back to the beginning, 1789. Okay. Also, congressional records. Congressional records are published. The interesting thing when you're looking at the statutes at large, now, in 1933, the United States placed into Chapter 11 bankruptcy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Under Chapter 11, you're allowed reorganization, right?
Right.
Almost every year, not quite every year, almost every year the United States has passed reorganizations? We've been in Chapter 11 bankruptcy ever since 33.
And they just do it every year.
Almost every year there is some agency or some part of government that goes under reorganization.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That doesn't even surprise me.
Now, I was talking to somebody on TikTok today, and I said, now, this guy's an entrepreneur out in California. He's got me coming on his TikTok Friday night at 9:30 Eastern. And he talks about how you should set up your business structure, a trust with LLCs, which is also what I teach. And I said, since you know about trust law, what is the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, and Bill of Rights? And he said, I never thought of it. I said, think about it. You got a Declaration of Trust called the Declaration of Independence. You have the rules the trustees have to follow, which is the Constitution. And you have the beneficiaries, those protected rights that the beneficiaries receive under the first 10 amendments. It's a trust indenture. That's why Congress will call themselves trustees. Now, if you remember, under the common law, how was a law to be passed? They had to first repeal the old law and then pass a new law, right? But since 33, they don't do that. Why? Because the trustees have the power to amend the indenture at their leisure. That's why they're always adding amendments to the codes. We never go back to the foundation being the Banking Relief Act of 1933, the Social Security Act of 35, the Securities and Exchange Act of 34, the Trust Indenture Act of 39. We never go back to these foundational acts and see how they've been amended so we know the rules to the game.
Right. Well, that's an important part, because then what you're doing is, if you look at it there and see where they've taken it, now you can see what they're planning, right? Because now you're doing this, what do you call that? This reverse engineering. Yeah, yes. Reverse engineering.
Yes.
And you see where they're going to take it. What's funny, when I started this whole thing in like 2000, 2001, and I was studying this stuff back then, I remember I was like, why don't we just get rid of everything? Why don't we just delete the codes, delete all that stuff, just make everything easier, and just start back with the Constitution and then build it up from there, in regards to, common law. And, well, that was just my thought on it. I was like, man, that would just be so much easier. We should just get someone that just like some president or something. But, that was like 19, 20 years old at the time. So I'm like, oh, yeah, we get a good guy come in. He'll just chop everything out, throw it away, and just say, okay, let's start with the Constitution. We have common law. And let's now sort out some of this confusion, which would be the best thing. If this corporation collapses, we could go back to that. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
We've never left the Republic.
No, it's still there. It's just unoccupied.
Yeah, it's the house no one lives in. Okay. It's the theory of the corporation. Okay. It is true that the United States, under Title 28 U.S.C. 3002, paragraph 15A, does say that the United States is a federal corporation. But you know that we've been misapplying that?
How so?
Now, Okay, you know the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, you cannot use the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act in Title 15, right? It doesn't apply to them. Now, why does it not apply to them? Because under the 14th Amendment, you cannot argue the public debt. Makes sense, right?
Okay.
But Title 28, what is that? That's the rules the judges have to follow. Okay? Chapter 176, which is sections 3001 through 3308, is the Fair Debt Collection Procedures Act. That does apply. Okay? Now, why do I bring that up? The very second one in the list is 3002, where it says the United States is a federal corporation. Well, that means what? When the United States is acting as a debt collector, yes, it is acting as a corporation. That doesn't mean it's always acting as a corporation. And I didn't learn that till a year ago.
That's an interesting concept. Because I've been working on that concept for like 20 something years. Federal government's corporation. I always thought it must be like a bank or something. When it acts as a corporation, it's acting as a banking corporation.
Well, yes, but if Chapter 176 is where they put that section at, then that tells you the application of it. If it's the Fair Debt Collection Procedures Act, and that's the only place it says the United States is a federal corporation, then it applies to what? The procedures of debt collection.
Right. Well,
and if there is a debt collection, don't you have the right to an itemized bill?
Yep. Let's see. What was that again? You said it was 28 what?
28 USC chapter 176.
Oh, chapter 176.
That is sections 3001 through 3308. The very second one in the list is 3002, which is where that definition of the United States being a federal corporation is at.
Nope. Chapter 72. One more.
That's chapter 176.
176. All right. There it is. Well, I got the 3002. I know the 3002 section. That's all just definitions.
That's right.
General provisions. Affidavit requirements. Well, that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. See, a lot of people, no offense to anybody that's done it, because I was guilty of this in my early days. We listen to the next greatest teacher, and that great guru quotes a section, and we trust them, right? Because they've earned our trust, proving that this stuff they say must be right, or has proven some of it to be right.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is we never go look in context for what's being said.
Oh, no, I do.
Well, I know you do. I've been seeing your videos long enough to now know that you read, and I respect that.
Yeah, and that's what I want people to do. I want people to read it for themselves. So that's why it's not like someone just telling you. You know, I listen to all these, gurus and stuff like that. And I say, oh, I wonder where that is. And I go look for these things. And sometimes I find them. I go, oh, yeah, look, that is there. Yeah, that's true. And then sometimes I go, I can't find this thing. I spent like 3 days looking for something.
Yeah.
Now, you're the one
I
that
can.
told me that you can't use the IRS forms, right? You're not supposed to use the IRS forms?
You're not supposed to. If what I was told was correct, I do trust the source. But being a truck driver, I have not yet been able to read the IRS publication myself. Because
Someone,
IRS publications. Yeah, Dee Bradbury, if you know who that is. She reads the IRS publications, and she's the one that brought it to my attention. She says it was in publication 901. Okay, now 901 is not a small publication.
no.
Um,
I read the whole
and
thing that same day you told me that.
yeah, and if she told me the correct publication, she said that it says in there you really shouldn't be using their forms. You're supposed to be creating your own. And then I went and looked up, and she even said it says there is a way to go through the OMB office to get those forms you create published. And sure enough, I did go look it up. The OMB has a 4-page document that tells you how to get them approved.
Yeah, the OMB has that. Someone put up on Fam Guardian, I forget his name. He put up a form that could be a great IRS form, the W4T, but it has no OMB number, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about taking that form because I thought it was a great form. It would be a great use, just bringing it down to the OMB and be like, hey, look, let's get a number on this thing. Let's
Well,
approve this one.
let me give you a different concept. See, when I watched Smoking Baby's webinar, this was back in the fall, almost a year ago, right at a year ago, actually. He did it in November, and I watched it shortly thereafter. Now, me and Smoking Baby, we know each other. We talk quite a bit. So the concept of the W4 makes sense. Okay, it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him, and I've never got this question answered adequately. Never. I don't think the W4 is right. I think the concept is right. And here's why. What do the corporations do? You've worked as a subcontractor before, I presume, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, what do they give you?
A 1099 NEC.
Or a miscellaneous, right?
Right.
So, what does that 1099 represent? That represents to the government that this corporation issued this much credit to you, right?
Right.
Why are we not doing the same thing?
Issuing credit to.
We telling the government this is how much credit the trust issued to this corporation. Are you not doing it all in the name of the trust as the agent?
Well, in what way would you be doing that? Like, would you fill out the NEC as like a?
You go get AT&T's. If you got a cell phone, you got AT&T. You go get their freaking W-9. They actually publish their EINs on their website. You put their information on the paper. You calculate how much credit you issued them, which for AT&T would be your bill times 2, right?
Okay.
Because they got the coupon and they got the payment, right?
Right. That's right.
Now
They got the coupon. I think.
Now, what is the duty of the agent to send all notices, all demands, and all processes to the principal, right?
Yep.
Well, when you get a statement in the mail and there's a coupon attached, what did they give you? They gave you a notice. That's your statement. And the coupon is your demand, because if you look at the legal definition of coupon, it tells you it's a demand for payment. at some
Yeah.
uncertain time. It's a security. So you should be letting them know that, hey, I issued this much credit. They received one payment from the Treasury with the coupon, HJR 192, and they received a payment from you.
Right.
All
They've
in the
received.
name of the trust, right? Because didn't it have the name of the trust and the social?
So then you would file, I guess, what, the 1099 NEC on the amount that you paid into, or 2 times that amount because of the check that you sent them and the coupon, and you submit that in to the IRS at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You got to do that
I
for
haven't.
each corporation you're doing business with.
Yeah. You got a Black's Law Dictionary.
Oh, yeah.
Check and see. Pull up closed account. If it's not under closed account, it'll be under a sub definition under account. I know that's where it's at under Black's 11th. Okay. Because I want to point something out to you. Actually, I'll do it this way. I'll give you the Black's 11th. This is going to blow your mind.
Closed account, right? So I'm going to
Yeah.
go to closed. I'm in 5th edition.
It might be under closed account.
It could just be under account still at this point in time.
It might be because I know under the 10th edition and under the 11th, they listed it under account. But I think certain of the older books, they had it separated.
No, it's not under here.
Then it's under accounts. If it's not on its own, it's under accounts.
Accounts. You know what? I'm going to share this with everybody so everyone can see what I'm looking at. Oh, I got to move it over. Okay. But this is how I research. I just go in here. I look for this stuff. Oh, too far. Accounts.
I wanted to look it up and see what it says for you compared to what it says in the document I shared. The definition can't have changed much at all. So when you find it, read it to me.
Closed account. An account to which no further additions could be made on either side, but which remains still open for adjustment and set off, which distinguishes it from an account stated.
Okay. Why did they say no more additions on either side?
You can't go in the negative and you can't go in the positive with it.
No. They didn't say subtraction.
Well, it
They
says
said
either side.
additions. Now, look at the document I shared for account. Go to page 2.
Where's that? Where did you share that?
In your group.
That's in here.
See, the last part of the definition was almost the same. It's the first part where it was further clarified.
The thing that says account, right?
Yes. Now go to
Okay.
page 2, middle of the page, you'll have closed account.
An account that no further credits or debits may be added to, but that remains open for adjustment or set off. And that's the EFT stuff right there.
Now, the reason why I wanted to point that out, when it said no more additions to either side of what? The ledger.
Right. Credit
You
or
have a
debit.
credit.
Right. That's
you have a credit side and you have a debit side. Now, remember, I told you I understand the concept of the W-4. And remember, the lady asked the banker what would happen if they filed a W-4 and claimed both sides of the account. What did he say? He said they wouldn't never think of it. See, the bank is using the accrual method. The accrual method claims both the credits and the debits. Okay? Now, all this time we've been thinking debits were subtracted. The definition says added.
Is that in here? That's not in here.
Yeah, it says an account that no further credits or debits may be added to.
Right. Well, debit isn't I know people have a confusion on credit and debit and what that is in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, a debit it means there's something there.
Yep, that's right. So in your definition, it says no more additions can be made to either side. Now just talk about grammar.
Right.
Plain old
Either
grammar.
side.
That means there's two sides, and they're doing addition to both sides. They're claiming both sides. The problem is you don't. See what I'm saying?
Yep. Okay, you ready? I'm going to pull this one up. This is funny. This is the definition of debit in Black Law's Fifth, because that's just the one I had up.
Yeah.
A sum charged as due or owing, an entry made on the asset side of a ledger or account. It's an asset.
A debit is an asset. Now, why is it an asset? Because you're giving them the credit.
Right. The term is used in bookkeeping to denote the left side of the ledger or the charging of a person or an account with all that is supplied or to be paid out for him or for the subject of the account. That's all the debit side of it.
The credit side is not an asset. It's a liability.
Let's look at that credit. The ability of a business or person to borrow money. Honestly, that sounds like a liability already. Or obtain goods on time in consequence of the favorable opinion held by the particular ledger as to solvency and reliability. Credit means the right granted by a creditor to a debtor to defer payment of debt or to incur debt and defer its payments.
Now, why are you the issuer of the credit? Let's see if you know that.
I'm the issuer. Well, because the federal government is the debtor, because they went into this bankruptcy, and now they have to create money based off of your production.
Yeah, so, but based on that, where does the obligation come in at? The 18 USC 8, where does that come in at?
Well, they took the gold and the silver
Did they?
out of. Well, they took it out of the They took it out of the society, out of our system, out of the monetary system.
What if I told you they didn't?
Well, that'd be news to me.
Yeah, it was news to me when I learned it.
Because I could go buy gold right now if I want to, but I know that they didn't have this large amount of it, or it's not, the currency isn't backed by gold right now. It was before then, before 1933. That's why they had the gold certificates and the silver certificates. So where is it now?
Getting ready to show you. I'm uploading
Okay.
Congressional Record, March 9th, 1933.
Okay. Banking holiday.
Now, go to
That's,
page 2.
uh-huh.
Now, on the right-hand side, you see the name Mr. Stiegel. About 2/3 of the way down. On the right-hand side.
Yep, Mr. Stiegel.
Now, the paragraph above that. See, they didn't get rid of gold. They redefined what gold was. Read the first sentence.
Under the Federal Reserve Act, obligations that are deposited as the security and gold for reserve notes are placed in the hands of the Federal Reserve agent. I would like to ask the chairman. Okay.
Now, that's it. So the obligations are deposited as what?
Okay. Under the Federal Reserve Act, obligations that are deposited as the security and gold.
Boom. That right there is 12 USC 411.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Let's look at that real quick, because 12, let's see, 411. I don't know if I did anything on that one, but yeah.
We are not supposed to be using 12411, and trust me, I'm guilty of this until, and because I've got a checkbook here that has that on it.
All right, and then it says
I
here,
just
Federal
learned
Reserve
this
notes.
year. Go ahead.
Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for the purpose of making advances. Federal Reserve notes through the Federal Reserve agents as herein set forth and for no other purpose are authorized. The notes shall be obligations of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and member banks, Federal Reserve banks for all taxes, customs, and other public dues.
Now,
yeah,
is that not what you just read in a shorter format?
It was, it doesn't say, it says this is, I thought was interesting. They shall be redeemed in lawful money.
Now, what is the lawful money?
Well, that's gold and silver.
No. Go to page 5 of that Congressional Record.
All right, page 5.
Top paragraph, left-hand side, in the middle of the paragraph, it says, on the right-hand side of that paragraph, it says, under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for government obligations and bankers' acceptances. Let's see. Now, government obligations, bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances.
Let me see. Where?
It's in the top paragraph, left-hand side, middle of the paragraph.
If the Republican Party has released itself from the clutches of Wall Street, expanded its currency immediately after the stock market crashed in 1929, within a year after the crash, our people would have been saved from this awful money panic. Will doubtless ask amendments to this new law when conditions are under the new law. The money is issued to the banks in return for government obligations, bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. The money be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it's backed by the credit of the nation.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's 12 USC 412. So now, they exchange government obligations, okay, and give out Federal Reserve notes, okay? or book entry credits. If you go through Title 31 of the Code of Federal Regulations, you'll find this term book entry credits. Okay. We already know that, well, most people do not even realize that when you make a payment for something, everybody thinks that we're using Federal Reserve notes. No, they just laid out lawful money right there in that paragraph. That was a short description, right?
Yep.
Now, when you went down to Walmart, you had the option of using Federal Reserve notes. You also had the option of using a check card, a credit card, a bill of exchange, just a money order, anything. The government takes those become government obligations because any debt instrument is an obligation of the United States, which means all those obligations are lawful money. Now, in 12 U.S.C. 412, it talks about the collateral security, but it talks about that too. It just goes in greater detail. When you went and got a mortgage, or you went and got a car loan, or you went and got a credit card, you issued the collateral security. The bank under 12 U.S.C. 411 exchanges it for the credits. See where you're the issuer of the credit now?
Mm-hmm. Look, we got it. It's in here.
Yeah. You are the issuer of the credit. They take it to the Federal Reserve agent and says, hey, I have this government obligation. I need credit. You issued the lawful money. Do you know the one thing that Congress has never defined? A denomination. What is a denomination? Okay. Do you know why they've never defined it?
What is that?
Because if the maximum denomination is $100 bill and you go try to buy a $314,000 house, how many promissory notes are you going to have to fill out?
Well, that'd be quite a bit.
Now, not only that, go back to the congressional record. It says the money, singular. Again, I stress it. Every word matters. The money, singular, is worth 100 cents on the dollar, right?
Yep.
Look how many dollars you carry in your pockets. You got a $quarter, a $half, a $1, $5, a $10, a $20, a $50, a $100. What are they all worth? 100 cents on the dollar. Does that mean it's 100 cents for each dollar of the denomination?
Oh. You could cut out on me. I don't know.
Remember back in the day, people would get a $1 money order, say paid in full?
Yeah, I have some right here.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? The money is all worth the same, 100 cents on the dollar. You just think there's $50. You just think there's $100.
The money would be worth 100 cents on the dollar. Doesn't say which kind of dollar.
It doesn't say how many dollars.
Well, let's look at like a $5 bill. And, well, it says dollars.
Now, since you got a $5 bill, lay that on the table and flatten it out and put a pencil right down the middle. You want to see what a dual purpose note is?
Oh, you're talking about the this and then.
No, not that way. The other way.
Oh, with this. Oh, well, because then you still got the still split, still got your signatures.
No, it's not the signatures. It's the seals. The left side is the Federal Reserve note. The right side is the lawful money of the United States. Look at the seals. One side is for the Federal Reserve. The other side is for the Treasury.
I've
It is a
never
dual
noticed that.
purpose.
I've never noticed that before. Holy shit, that's a good one. All right,
It's a dual purpose note.
It's on all of them. I now you
Yes.
see, once you see, you can't unsee it. Look at that. That is something.
Question.
Holy shit.
You have the option which side of the note you want to use. But you got to go to the bank. You got to go to the bank and change your signature card.
So you could redeem this for lawful money because it says so.
It's already lawful money. On the right-hand side.
On the right-hand side, yeah.
The right-hand side is issued by the Treasury. The left-hand side is issued by the Federal Reserve. You have to tell the bank which side of the note you're using.
So I'm going to just hold this up so everyone can see. It's the Federal Reserve side, and here is the Department of Treasury side. Right? It's on every single dollar bill. Never noticed that before. I always.
You know, I got that from a conversation with a nice lady that her bank manager at her bank told her that.
Hey, Pastor, you got that from Kelly Alexander, didn't you?
Nope. D. Bradbury.
Okay.
She had a conversation with her bank manager the other day and confirmed this stuff.
I'm just laughing at this. I did not see. I learned something today.
Yeah, Kelly Alexander advocates, or used to advocate, changing your endorsement with your bank to basically convert your Federal Reserve notes to lawful money pursuant Title 12, Section 411. So that's why I asked.
Yeah. And
yeah, I heard about that.
You can actually do your letter of intent that you intended to do that from the beginning, ab initio.
Now, my friend, a friend of mine did that. He was telling me about it. And I said, how's that working out for you? And he said he doesn't really see much of a difference in his bank account from doing that. But
it stops how it's reported as in for tax purposes because the left side is taxable. The right side is not.
All right. So when you go to the bank, you're converting your signature from the one that they have on file to which kind now?
You're still doing the signature card, but you have to let them know that your intent. What is your intent to use lawful money of the United States?
So I would just go there and say, I have the intent to use lawful money of the United States when I deposit my money.
Yeah, under 12 U.S.C. 411.
It's just a conversation with the teller or the banker.
Well, you need to note it on your signature card.
Now, I've heard that, sorry to chime in real quick, but I've heard that some banks won't let you do that because they can't fractionally reserve.
That's right.
So how do you get around that?
Send them a letter of intent. Now, they may ask you to close your account at that bank, but not every bank will. There are banks all over the place that are actually private banks. The one you go to down the street is not a private bank. That's the public persona.
Right. Well, if they were to do that and they said, we're going to close your account and they mail you a check, well, now you have an account that you can use for set-offs.
If you know how to do it, because it's hard to do it. Because the judges know the game. Do you think they're going to just willy-nilly let you do it? You got to know your stuff.
So let's see. So you go down, request a new signature card.
Yeah.
And then have to put that on there. And if they refuse, Well, then that's a whole other issue there.
Yep.
So
Then you just, if they refuse, I said, okay, then you'll get my letter that you can send to your legal department. It'll be your letter of intent based on the law. You have no contract with the Federal Reserve. They do. Your intention was to have lawful money of the United States.
all right, so now let's just we got a bunch of people listening. Who's going to try this out tomorrow besides me?
Oh, trust me, if I go home, when I can get home, when I can afford to go home, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm going to walk into the bank. I like one of my banks. I have a few banks. One was Wells Fargo.
Now, Wells Fargo, you really shouldn't have a problem. They're one of the old school banks. They know a lot of this stuff. Now, your local, you might want to sit down with your bank manager.
Yeah, because I went in there. Basically they refuse to notarize anything I bring in, which I thought was. Well, I just find it strange. They just always say, "Oh, we can't notarize that. We can't notarize that."
Because the reason why is their notaries are not allowed to notarize certain documents just in case you ever want to call them into court. So don't use them.
There we go. Okay. All right, that works. Yeah, and then I talked to the tellers, and they don't even know. Like, I talked to them about the coupons. I talked to them about bills of exchange. They have no knowledge of this whatsoever. I talked to one of the bankers one day, and I said something to her. She's like, I don't know anything about that. And then the manager came, and I told her what I was talking about, and she goes, how do you know about that? Like, kind of like in shock. And then the woman that I was dealing with was like, oh, this is something, right? And then she's like, listen, if you try to do this, we have to close your account. I was like, oh, well, never mind.
Why? The reason why is that account is the public side. You have not gotten access to the back office to open up your private account.
That's what I'm working on.
Then we need to talk privately.
Okay. We can do that.
Look, I was talking to Joe one day, and this dude was in the coffee shop writing on my IOU on a napkin. I was like, right. You get him, brother. You get him. Hey, Pastor, I have heard you speak somewhere else. I don't know if it was maybe in another one of the sandwich rooms or something. Like, I heard you speak
I've talked in sandwich rooms a lot. Some people know me from Robots and Patriots because whoever that moron was didn't get permission to post videos that were supposed to be in the private, because that's where that video was when I talked about the GSA bonds that I did on a family court case.
Which videos that they posted they weren't supposed to post? The Patrick Devine videos or the other videos?
No, the older videos. Yeah,
the old ones, like the ones
David Verderam was on it.
Okay, it's like all the SPC stuff.
Yeah. Okay. See, the SPC stuff, I've done the secured party creditor stuff. I'm just not 100% totally in agreement with it anymore, because now that I know what the trust is and that name is their property, where did I actually do the administrative process to get a security interest to do the UCC1?
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
Not only that, where do you have the authority if you're not the trustees to do the 56F forms to do an appointment? You don't have the authority.
Yeah, those forms, that's why I've never touched those forms. People keep asking me about the 56, and I'm like, I haven't done it. I'm probably not going to, because I can't appoint fiduciaries as Well,
you also got to look at it this way. It's an offer to contract, right?
That's right.
Does that person have the right to say no? Yes, they do. But can you set up a trust correctly and be a quote-unquote secured party? Yes, you can. Set you up a trust. You get you 2 LLCs. You make one LLC the holding company that has its property in trust, and you appoint the other LLC as the trustee. Now the law of agencies 100% applies, because you can do your DBA as the CEO of one trust and the general manager of the other trust. You, the man or woman, are in the private. The LLC is the trustee that does all the trust decisions. The other one is just the one that owns the property.
Yeah, I've heard that before, actually, about the there's a conversion with trusts, and it goes from one entity to another, which totally secures it.
Yeah, you got to do things right, because the government does try to tear it apart, saying it's a pass-through entity. But if you follow the laws, you are freaking golden.
Well,
I said, 9:30 Friday night, I'm doing a TikTok with a guy. That's how his business structure is set up.
I just did a video about how a United States person is a trust, or a trust is a United States person. I know that was from back in the 90s. They did that because people were using these trusts to get out of tax liabilities. And they're like, we have to just get jurisdiction over it. So they started doing that.
Yes, a lot of people in this movement, they think if they put everything in a trust, they're automatically tax exempt. No, they're not. If you do a distribution, there's a 10 to 15% tax on the distribution. But what if you don't do a distribution? What if the profits of the trust at the end of the year are now property of the corpus of the trust to reinvest into the business? Now there's no tax. This is
that makes sense.
Don't have anything. The trust owns the jets, the trust owns the warehouses, the cars, the houses, the clothes. Every year the profits go to be reinvested to acquire more property. And the beneficiaries get to play with everything.
That's right. They get the benefit. Get the benefit while they do, the trust has to do all this moving things around.
Yeah. This is how the elite play the game. If you want to be wealthy, do what the wealthy do.
Yeah, I talked about that. Must have been like 5-6 years ago. I was telling someone about that, and they said that sounds illegal. And I'm like,
it's not.
It's not illegal. You can like what Jeff Bezos does. He does something like that, where he has like some other kind of dummy corporation, and then that owns all the intellectual rights. But that company's like from the Cayman Islands, where there's no tax treaty. So he has to pay them.
Now, you don't even have to do the Cayman Islands. But I will walk you through how that happens. There's 4 states that give asset protection, right? Delaware, Nevada, Wyoming, and New Mexico. The latter 2, most people don't know about. Everybody's probably seen, start your Nevada corporation today. Remember those commercials years ago?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. Delaware, you do not want to get a registered agent in Delaware, because why? Delaware was set up for the corporation, so the filing fees and everything else are ungodly. You create your LLCs, you get a registered agent service in New Mexico. You can get a registered agent service for as cheap as $35 a year. And now that LLC has an office in New Mexico, and under New Mexico law, they will not divulge who the owners and members of the LLC are without a court subpoena. They keep that hidden. So that gives you privacy. Now, next thing. A lot of people out there saying, get your 98 number. and they make up all these off the wall ways to do it. Well, I always ask them, well, if you don't have an actual legitimate address over there where you can receive mail, don't you think that's going to cause problems? Well, how do you get a legitimate address? You get you one of those non-Hague countries. You go find the list of countries that didn't agree to the Hague, okay? Find you a mailing service or a registered agent in that country. Now you have an address and an agent to receive mail and everything, right? Now you use all that information legally to get your 98 number. Now you have a foreign grantor trust that is legal.
But it's funny, when I did it, I had an address. I had all this stuff set up, and they'd even ask for one.
Yeah, you go look at any corporation. They all have registered agents for service of process, right?
Yeah, but they didn't even ask me for an address, nothing. They basically just said, who's the trustee, and then what's the name of the trust, and, that was basically it. And I got the 98 number. It was a 5-minute phone call.
They didn't care to go through all the questionnaires then. They just said, we're tired of these phone calls. Here you go.
I got the woman that just didn't want to deal with it anymore. She's like, all right, here's your number. Have a nice day. Bye.
How's it going, Eric? I see you on here keeping all quiet, listening in.
Hey, brother, I was just enjoying myself. You're hitting it out of the park. Yeah, this is what the rich do, is they have corporations to hold their assets. They have corporations to mitigate their liability through management corporations. And here's a great example, guys, is a lot of companies will sub out their payroll. So their payroll will be done by a third party, and their payroll will cut all the checks. They'll do all the taxes. And so say, you have a business selling hamburgers or Mexican food. It doesn't matter. And you want your payroll to be perfected because you want your staff to be happy. And so you sub out a third party to do your payroll. That's the same thing. It's the same thing. And the reason why is because if you look at these liability cases, when you've got third-party corporations managing, they're the ones that take the hit. They're the ones that have to, have the hit on their insurance or whatever. And it really, really separates the liability and subrogation process.
Well, now using that as an example, Eric, the corporations, this is the way my mind works. This is the way Eric's mind works. And this is the way you got to train your mind to work. Okay, I've got a business. It's all under trust. It's all set up properly. I don't want to deal with payroll no more, right? Start you another company. Payroll company. That now can offer services to other corporations. And this is how you legally funnel the money around. See what I'm saying? Because now one corporation pays your other corporation for payroll services. It's still all under your trust. It's still under your control. You're just shuffling the money around legally. The last trucking company I worked with, I'll give you a prime example. The last trucking company I worked with, at the home office, they had a shop, they had a brokerage, they had the trucking company, they had the bookkeeping and the accounting. They had all these different offices there. And I run into the owner when I started learning about trust law. I wanted to renegotiate the contract between my trust and his trust, because here's why. When you do your contract between trusts, you're protected by the Fifth Amendment on keeping your paperwork private. Those contracts are private. That means the IRS has to fight tooth and nail to get those papers from you. That might make you get in trouble, right? So I said, I got a none of my business question. This is one of the owners of the company. I said, is this company owned by a trust? He smiled and said, I have a few trusts. And I told him, I said, well, tax evasion's illegal, but tax avoidance is not. And he laughed and said, you're absolutely right. And here's how he's got his structure set up. The shop is its own business. The trucking company pays the shop to repair the trucks. The brokerage is separate. It gets the contracts for the freight and then keeps a percentage and sends it to the trucking company. The accounting department is separate. The accounting department does the payroll, and all the money gets shuffled around based off the trucking company's income. All he did was put everything in one building, but it's all separate businesses. He has a total of 12 trusts.
Yep. Another example is setting up a partnership or an LLC that owns the actual building and renting it to your other corporation.
Well, that's where the trust comes in, because why? If the trust owns the property, the trust can contract with the business to lease it to the business.
Yeah, and then you can sub out portions of the building to your other corporations. So if you have 4 corporations, you can sub out 4 different businesses under one roof.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying here? It's really this is how the rich people do it, and it's fascinating once you get the books figured out electronically, so that you can produce P&L statements weekly. That's really important to be able to produce a profit loss statement weekly. That's something that you really need to look up in your accounting procedures and start to perfect the operation of law in your accounting procedure.
That's called the accrual method. Remember when we went over the bank ledger a minute ago, where you had the credits and the debits are both added?
Yep.
Well,
so there's 3. You have 3. There's accrual accounting, there's cash accounting, and then there's modified accrual accounting.
Yeah. Now, when the average person goes down to H&R Block and does their 1040, they're using the cash method. They're not, and the banks and the corporations use the latter two. That's why there's 2 sides to the ledger. They're using the accrual method. Liabilities and assets, credits and debits. If you have more assets than you have liabilities, there's your P&L statement. Use that to get credit. You don't even have to use the social to get credit. I like the social because if you're the agent, make the government pay its obligations.
So you would just do the 1099 NEC on basically all the different businesses that you've been doing business with throughout the year, and you would send those in.
That's my belief.
But you've never tried that?
Yeah, it's not tax season yet.
Okay. I might try that. I think I'm going to try that. I heard people talk about
you can only do a 1099 once a year. You can't. So what was, when the New Deal happened, what was the intent of right?
Cut out over. I couldn't hear your question.
I said, Go look at what the intent of the banking system and the intent of Congress was. They needed the currency to flow, right? So they needed you to make your payments. They said basically this: here's the tax forms. If you report right as the agent, you won't be liable. If you voluntary compliance, if you report it wrong, you volunteer to be liable.
Interesting.
I haven't filed taxes in, God, 8 years, and learning all this stuff. I said, man, I am really seriously looking at filing taxes now.
Yeah, I haven't filed taxes in a very long time. I'm not. Maybe I'll do that.
Well, think about it. If all of this is what they do when they file taxes, they report who they're giving credit to. If they're giving out all this credit to people, what are they doing? They're getting a recoupment. And you know, when you see the big tax returns of these corporations like AT&T, well, guess what you did? You abandoned all those coupons with them, right? They do a 1099-A and claim those abandoned properties. Because you never reported it to the government, so the agent can't do a recoupment. Since it's abandoned, the banks do a 1099 and claim it.
All right. So look, because I do the coupons, I've been getting pretty good success with it. But now that's something to add into the letter. Say, listen, I'm going to send you this coupon as payment. If you reject it, I will file a 1099-A on all the coupons I've sent you and claim that abandoned property. So take the payment because I know I sent them to you.
Now, you are not wrong on that, but I bet you $1 to a donut, I got some information for you that I will share privately that you probably missed some information, but even though you're having some success, you might increase that success if you have some additional information.
I'll be looking forward to that. Yeah.
And hey, brother, I also wanted to comment on your notice of intent. I like to always say notice of interest and intent in the header. Notice of interest and intent, because that way the header is very full in your clean hands and your good faith efforts. It's very clear. I yield.
Like that.
Now check your PM, Joe.
I see what you're doing there.
The other thing I've got, I would actually have to show you. We've had success with 2 different people on getting rid of a hospital bill. I can't put the documents in the group, but I can share them privately because it's got personal information on it.
Right.
But I can break down the process. And yes, it is very similar to that PM I sent you where it's actually got the right information on it. Now that information I just sent you there, that goes on the back.
That would make sense. Yeah, I could see that.
You see where the number at the top?
Mm-hmm.
That's the birth certificate file number.
See, if you look, I already sent that to you. I was asking if that's what that was, because that's what that looked like to me.
And then you've got the Federal Reserve branch. That's the local branch where the file was originally created. Not the branch on the back of the card.
But now the question is, how do you find out which bank it was created at?
Where was the record originally filed at?
All right, so then in that state, that's the bank.
And each branch of the Federal Reserve handles certain districts. So which district is that Federal Reserve? Which Federal Reserve handles that district where that file was created?
Okay.
That's the key. The district. Yep. Yep, exactly. Like just like your passport is like a Seattle passport, there's going to be zones or districts.
Right. Okay. So like that makes sense. And then I know the passport one is also a postal treasury account number.
Yeah. Well, the post office, Eric, this is your expertise. Explain the post office.
Well, the post office, first of all, everything is commercial. Everything's a commercial transaction. So then the next thing I need to just say as a precursor is that the post office is older than United States. And then through treaty in Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States of America, 1789, they honor these treaties. And through treaty, the post office is also a bank and a judiciary unto itself. And so through honoring treaties, debt obligations. If you read Article 6, you should print it and put it out in front of you in your office to comprehend what Article 6 really is saying. In the Constitution, what it's saying is that it's going to honor everything before and after this Constitution. It's going to honor all those debt obligations, the prior engagements, the treaties on and before this Constitution. So it's pretty much it's a laundry list of war debt of ancient days that continues via the Constitution. And so getting back to what I was speaking about, the post office, there is a primal responsibility within the organization of Post that operates unto itself, and this is a prime example in the UPU, where you see countries working with each other under participating
states. I also want you to go over the jurisdiction thing.
Yes. So
that explains the difference from the post office and the postal service.
Yes. So something really good to pull up to teach you as a teaching aid is the Colorado Revised Statutes, Title III. And so in a Google search bar, just type in Colorado Revised Statutes, space title, space 3, space PDF, and download the PDF. And what's important is when people start talking about post offices, here I have interests in Colorado. That's another thing I want to offer to everyone is so many people stumble and fumble on what to say about where you're from or where you're at, or I stand upon the land. That's all silly stuff. The nomenclature that I prefer is that you have interests. You have interest somewhere. So I have interest in Colorado, and Colorado, you could probably guess, but we probably have 1,000 post offices. We've got 64 counties. So you think with that many counties, how many post offices per county? I mean, even if you did 3, that's still 500 post offices. But in Title III, when you start reading, you realize that jurisdiction is ceded to only 3 post offices. Now, guys, jurisdiction is only ceded to the land. Okay. And land can be acquired in many different ways. It can be purchased. It could have a land grant. It could be given, eminent domain, you name it. They can acquire land, but to have power over land, it must have jurisdiction ceded to it, and it also must explicitly describe the land use purpose. And so the use of this land is very important. And so when you read Title III, you'll realize that there's only 3 post offices that have jurisdiction ceded to that land to operate in law. And so it's really important if you're planning on executing any postal executions of instruments, be very, very knowledgeable of Title III in Colorado revised statutes and use it to affect the same language in your own state statutes. I yield.
Now the reason why I wanted him to go over that is I don't know all 3, but one of them is Pueblos. So when you read that section in Title III, in Colorado, there's actually only 3 post offices, United States post offices. Every other branch is the United States Postal Service. It's a corporation.
Bingo.
It only has jurisdiction as a corporation would by contract to offer services. This is why tax per Q, get away from that word. I dug through Westlaw, and I only found one law review talking about the sovereign citizen movement and all of that. Tax per Q don't exist in Westlaw, okay?
Well,
it's about jurisdiction. Are you going to the right post office to do what you're trying to do?
Well, I don't put those on the stamps. I do it as postage paid instead of tax per Q.
Yeah. Now some people have success, but not everybody has success. And the reason why is everybody's thinking to go to their local post office, and they're not always winning because why? They're not going to the United States Post Office. They're going to the United States Postal Service.
Right.
And trust me, this information in your respective state is not always easy to find. In my state, we have yet to find where those post offices actually are at.
I think I'm surrounded by them because every post office I go to, they have the box. I drop it in there and it works. Let's see. I have a friend who's in here who got rejected from the same stamps, and I think someone else just told me that today too. They said they tried using my stamp and got rejected. I said, "Well, that's interesting." But he said even when mail is sent in, once it gets there, they reject it if they use these other stamps. So I was like, "Well, that's interesting." He says it's just his post office.
Yeah, it could be, and it could have something to do with what we're just now discussing. Is if you see, I don't have a problem paying for postage because if you understand contract law, pay the postage. Now you're into a contract. There are certain rights and interests that go with that contract. And anyway, it don't cost that much for a stamp.
No, stamps are cheap. These postal money orders, I see someone doing, they use like 3-cent stamps on them and then redeem them using the passport number as a treasury account number.
Because it is. Anything in the public has to be bonded.
Yeah. Oh, no, I believe it. I mean, I see it. I'm like, it makes sense to me. The driver's license, it's got to be the same thing.
Now, I don't know if the numbers are right. I've heard people say that the driver's license is bonded for $11.2 million, but I've not seen any hard evidence of that. It could be true, but you're already insured. I mean, because why? What do they want to see when you get the driver's license? They want to see the birth certificate and the social. What is the birth certificate? Well, if you haven't seen the video, it's called Bankruptcy and Revised Article 9 Part 1 on YouTube. Okay? And at the 43-minute mark, Ms. LaRouche is talking about the registered organization. Now, this is when they was changing the UCC. Okay? And they had all these new terms and all these new things. So this class is put out by the Federal Judicial Center for judges. It's a part 1 and a part 2. Well, at part 1, at the 43-minute mark, Ms. LaRouche is talking about the registered organization, and the guy 2 spots to her right pops off and says, yes, and some say the state issues a birth certificate. And I said, who gets birth certificates? People do. That means that state property is a registered organization. So when you go get your driver's license, they need to see the name of the registered organization / corporation.
Right.
They need to know the account number for it, and they need to know who the registered agent is. That's why they want your address and picture.
Right. And
so when you get pulled over by a cop, what is he doing? He's doing service of process because he puts it in your hand.
Well, that's why I thought, and I still think this, the birth certificate is essentially just a warehouse receipt. It's showing you goods.
Guess what you never did?
What?
Delivery receipt for warehouse goods. I showed this to Fearless Floyd, and it caused him to do a video on it. And I pulled the form from Westlaw, and it is called Delivery Receipt for Warehouse Goods. You're not going to find the form there, but I tell you what, I will show it to you.
All right. All right.
Let's see. Delivery Receipt for Warehouse Goods. Now, check out your group. I just posted it in there.
All right.
How does, when they sent you that negotiable instrument, how do they know that you received it?
Oh, yeah, this is Code of Federal Regulations, isn't it?
No,
this
is a form. This is just a form.
Oh, yeah. No, this is a form.
Yeah.
Delivery receipt for warehouse goods. I hereby acknowledge the delivery and receipt of all property as described in this warehouse receipt number of receipt. Certify that the property have been received on the above is in good condition and order unless otherwise indicated on this receipt in writing. For the certified all properties by me and by the delivery. Holy shit! Look at that. Now this is interesting.
This is part of handling your commercial affairs. You've never told them that it got to the rightful person.
This is why I got to get Westlaw, right? You can't find some of this stuff.
You can't find it, you're right, but you've got a local law library. The average person, I'm going to tell you now, does not want to pay what I pay for this.
Oh, I know how much it costs. You're doing God's work by having Westlaw, I'm telling you.
My wife hates the bill every month.
Well, I understand. No, see, I have to go to, there's no law library by me that's open. They closed it down at the beginning of COVID, and they have not opened up since.
Oh, they've got a law library. Every courthouse has one.
I'd like to see if they'd let me in there.
And they have to give you access.
And brother, I teach a class on how to meet your librarian and how to have a relationship with a librarian. And there's some awesome posts on Cite Your Authority Telegram if you want to jump on there. I've got some really great information on libraries.
yes, he just brings up a very valid point, because why? Your local library, if you're looking for, say, American Jurisprudence Volume 12, she'll go in her system, look it up, see where it's at, and
Yep.
she'll get it sent there. And
Yep.
you'll be able to hold it for 2 weeks and send it back.
Okay,
Very powerful.
That's good to know.
And they will help you sort cases and figure out. It's called shepherdizing a case, and they'll help you shepherdize cases, and that means to bring up the most current case. And an example is like with jurisdiction. If there's one case that you need to go out and read, it's James v. Dravo. And then also Erie Railroad case is a great one too. But yeah, it's definitely
those 2 cases is where they merged law, equity, and admiralty into one action. They call it a civil action.
Civil action. Yeah, one civil action. Exactly. And it's just like in the Holy Scriptures, by your pleading you will be heard, by your prayer you will be heard, by your belief you will be saved. By your belief you will be saved. And it's the same thing in these courtrooms. Is by your pleading you'll be heard. So be very careful how you plead and how you speak. Be very, very careful.
So just to let you guys know, I have to leave because it's getting to be my bedtime.
Yeah,
but I'm going to try to leave this going. I don't know if it will keep recording or not. Hopefully it will.
Now go ahead and end this recording. I'm probably going to bow out for a minute too. That way you've got your video for YouTube if you want to upload it.
No, I think it just stays in the group. I think there's a lot of stuff in here, but this will be this is great. I loved it. I love you guys sharing, the information you guys have. This was awesome. I wish I could go on for another 3-4 hours with this, but yeah, I got to go to sleep. That's my only problem. I'm still human.
I know. Trust me. Unfortunately, I've got 5 more hours to drive, so I've got to stay up for a while.
Yeah, I understand. Well, we all got business to attend to, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah, thanks for the show tonight. That was awesome. Brian, you just rocked it. I love hearing you speak because it's always right on cue. So, good job tonight, and yeah, bless everyone. Thank you.
Well,
Joe, it was a pleasure to finally get to talk to you and meet you. And anytime you want me around, just let me know. Or if you're looking for information, send me a message.
All right, will do. Really appreciate all the stuff you've been sending, and loved the conversation tonight. It was great. It was wonderful. All right, and I'll definitely reach out to you again. But okay. Everyone, have a good night.
Have a good night, sir.
Good night.